And we want to stand for good moral leadership. Whether they're going to win or they're not going to win, whether they're going to get 1 seat in parliament, 2 seats, we need as many young people in parliament as possible. We need as many creative ideas in parliament as possible in our politics. Our leaders have been amazing. I think they've done an incredible job over the years, but I think it's time now for new leadership, young people, great, fresh, new ideas to emerge. And that's why I give props all these political leaders. But the question is, who's funding them? And Mr. Malema spoke on one of the interviews and said, if you go dig deep, it's important as much as you're going to support political parties because we want change. We are patriotic about our country. Our country comes first. Some of us would think about our great grandchildren. Some of us can't run away to any other country, to any other continent. This is our country. We're born here, we're gonna die. This is our continent, this is our country. This is where we belong. So we care about its future. We care about our great grandkids. What type of a country are they going to inherit? That's why it makes me happy to see new leaders emerging and new political parties coming into the fore. Although, from a bigger picture, from a bird's eye view, when you're a black Pan-Africanist, you'll understand that, these imperialists over a century ago, when they got together and planned to divide Africa amongst themselves in Germany, that was their main plan, to divide us. That's why it's always been big on their side. The divide and conquer has always been big. And you do know now, with our biggest opposition party, DA, there's been a lot of talk around Cape Independence. And there's been a lot of talk about the DA seeking assistance from overseas. And when that money comes, it comes with conditions. And who is it going to come from? It's definitely going to come from imperialists. Is it good for us? Is it good for the black nation in the long run if you look at the future? So that's why it's important, even though you support individuals or you support a political party's manifesto, it's always important to understand who's funding you. What is your agenda? Because always remember, he who pays the bills pulls the strings. He who pays the bills slants the Qatar. They call the shots. They influence policy. They're able to lobby and get the leaders to push certain policies in parliament so that those policies favor them. That's why even some of the most wealthiest business people buy politicians, so that they can have policies that favor their side of business or their industry, so they're able to monopolize certain industries and make billions and billions of rands, if not dollars, over a long period of time. So it's extremely important, all you young people, Bantwana Basekhaya, to know who's funding your political parties. Don't follow blindly, and follow your leaders, do your research, read their manifestos, understand what they're about. And if I were to advise you to do anything as a young person, right, as a matter of fact, not only as a young person, yourself, maybe I should do this myself, maybe I should lead by example. I'll advise you to go and attend as many rallies of these political parties as possible. So you at least get as close to them as possible without just only listening to these sound bites, these news clips, these social media trends, these articles on these newspapers, because we all know also these newspapers have got their own agendas as well. Because also somebody pays their bills and they slant the Qatar behind the scenes. So when there's election time, guys, remember all the wealthiest people have got their eyes on the elections, because behind the scenes, they fund these politicians, they influence these elections. So who's funding Sara? Who's funding Bosa? Who's funding Action SA? Who's funding Arise Mzansi? Who's funding the EFF? Who's funding the ANC? Who's funding the DA? Who's funding the IFP? Who's funding the ACDP? Who's funding the UDM? Who's funding the VF? Who's funding all these political parties? Be knowledgeable, be informed, don't vote blindly. Go to their rallies, get as close to them as possible, even though you're not their member. Go to their rallies. Go listen to their speeches. Follow them so that at least you are sort of as informed as possible when voting time comes. But this is not an election for you to say you're not voting. We are all voting, guys. And this is an election for you to participate. Even though you are not in politics, you've got a phone. But like, these elections have got the most highest, if not biggest, social media presence or the biggest internet presence of South Africans ever. Internet is at its peak right now. Bigger than it was in the elections of 1994. Bigger than it was even in the last election. So everybody's got a voice. Everybody's got an opinion. Even if you're not political. You don't have to say, no, me, I'm not into politics. No, voice your views. Let's hear you out. Take out your phone, record videos. Don't be afraid of people challenging your views. Because politics, you know, it's a dirty game. Some people will swear at you. Some people will be rude. But that's how politics goes. Right? So don't be afraid of being challenged. Don't be afraid of people opposing your views. But just start speaking out, start being involved, start listening to these speeches, start listening to these political parties, go read their manifestos so you are an informed voter. But guys, we are all voting. So it's extremely imperative for you to understand who's funding your political party. And I'm not saying as soon as you find out if they are funded by Stellenbosch, now you're going to stop supporting them. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying at least you know. Don't just follow blindly. We've heard Mr. Julius Malema has been open about who funds the EFF, and we all know that. So at least now know who's funding your political party. Because if you follow blindly, you end up getting disappointed at a later stage, and it doesn't make any difference because then you're not an informed voter. So inform yourself. There's a time for everything, but be involved in these elections as well. I'm also not that much vocal as far as politics is concerned, but because of these elections, I am. And I also do know that I've got a platform. So I want to engage you guys. I want you guys to talk about politics, and I want to engage a lot or as many of my young followers as possible to encourage them to go out there and cast their votes on these elections. They're happening a day after my birthday, the 29th of May, and all the best. Who are you going to vote for?